The morning sun streamed through the dusty windows of the Cypress Grove Community Theater, casting long shadows across Lisa Martinez's cluttered desk. She sat there, coffee growing cold beside her, as she read the local newspaper for the third time that morning. The headline seemed to grow larger with each reading. LEGOLAND Florida announces major layoffs, hundreds of workers affected. Lisa ran her fingers through her short brown hair, her mind racing with thoughts of all the families she knew would be affected. Winter Haven wasn't a huge city, and the loss of these jobs would ripple through the community like waves in a pond. As the theater director of the local community playhouse, she had worked with many Legoland employees who did part-time acting in her productions. The phone on her desk rang, startling her from her thoughts. Cypress Grove Theater, Lisa speaking, she answered automatically. Lisa, have you seen the news? It was Peter Thompson, her assistant director. His voice carried the same worry she felt in her gut. I'm looking at it right now, she replied, tapping her finger on the newspaper. 350 people, Peter. That's 350 families wondering how they'll pay their bills next month. The office felt smaller than usual as Lisa stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the Florida heat was already building, making the air shimmer above the parking lot. A family walked past the theater, a little boy wearing a Legoland t-shirt, and something clicked in Lisa's mind. Peter, remember that benefit show we did last year for the hurricane victims? She asked, her voice picking up energy. Yeah, we raised almost $15,000 in one night, Peter replied. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Lisa smiled for the first time that morning. We could do something bigger, something special for the Legoland workers. She grabbed a notepad and began writing rapidly. The theater had always been more than just a building to her. It was a place where community happened, where people came together to create something magical. Why couldn't they use that magic to help their neighbors? Later that afternoon, Lisa called an emergency meeting with her theater board. The small conference room was packed with familiar faces. Claire Duncan, the costume designer, Rick Howard, the technical director, and Maria Ramirez, their marketing coordinator. Look, Lisa said, standing at the head of the table, we have a stage, we have talent, and we have a community in need. What if we put together the biggest benefit show Winter Haven has ever seen? Rick leaned forward in his chair. We're talking about a lot of work, Lisa. The summer season is already planned. Then we'll work harder, Lisa replied, her determination evident in her voice. These are our neighbors, our friends. Some of them have kids in our youth theater program. Maria raised her hand. I have an idea. What if we incorporate Lego themes into the show? Make it a tribute to what these workers helped create. The room grew quiet as everyone considered this. Lisa could almost see the creative wheels turning in each person's head. We could build set pieces that look like giant LEGO bricks, Claire added, sketching quickly in her notebook. Use bright primary colors. Make it feel like you're walking into a Lego world. The energy in the room began to shift from concern to excitement. This was what they did best, taking an idea and building it into something real, something that could touch people's hearts. Lisa's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Karen Phillips, one of the laid-off Legoland performers who had acted in several of their shows. Heard you might be planning something. Need any help? That's it, Lisa announced to the room. We don't just put on a show for them, we put on a show with them. The next few hours were a flurry of activity. Lists were made, calls were placed, and emails were sent. The local news station agreed to run a story about their plans, and social media began buzzing with support. By evening, Lisa sat alone in her office again, but this time the newspaper headline didn't seem quite so daunting. On her desk lay a rough outline for Building Hope. Brick by brick, their upcoming benefit show. The concept was taking shape, a variety show that would combine professional actors with Legoland performers, featuring music, dance, and storytelling, all wrapped in the colorful world of Lego. Her phone kept lighting up with messages from community members wanting to help. The local hardware store offered to donate materials for sets. A printing company volunteered to handle all the programs and posters. Even the coffee shop across the street promised to provide free refreshments for rehearsals. As the sun set outside her window, casting an orange glow across the theater's worn stage, Lisa thought about all the shows she directed over the years. But this one felt different. This wasn't just about entertainment, it was about holding up a mirror to show the community its own strength. She picked up her phone and started a group text to her core team. Tomorrow we start building something special. Not with plastic bricks, but with hope, talent, and heart. 9 a.m. meeting to begin planning. Bring your imagination. The responses came quickly, full of enthusiasm and ideas. Lisa smiled as she gathered her things to head home. In times of trouble, people often looked for helpers. Sometimes, she realized, all it took was one person to raise their hand and say, "Let's do something about this." As she locked up the theater for the night, she paused in the lobby, looking at the walls covered with posters from past shows. Soon, a new poster would join them, one that would remind people of the time their community came together to help its own. The first step had been taken. Now the real work would begin. The warm evening air greeted her as she stepped outside, carrying with it the distant sound of children playing in the nearby park. Tomorrow would bring challenges, but tonight, Lisa Martinez had given her community something precious, a reason to hope. The morning began with a burst of activity at the Cypress Grove Community Theater. Lisa Martinez arrived early, armed with fresh coffee and stacks of notepads for the planning meeting. Peter Thompson was already there, arranging chairs in a circle in the rehearsal room. "Ready to build something amazing?" Peter asked, adjusting his glasses as more people filed into the room. The space quickly filled with both familiar faces and new ones. Karen Phillips, still wearing her LEGOLAND employee badge out of habit, brought along 5 of her former coworkers. Each carried the kind of creative energy that came from years of entertaining children. First things first, Lisa began, standing in front of the gathered group. "We need to figure out what kind of show we're creating. Something that honors the spirit of Legoland, but also showcases our community's talents." Michelle Garcia, who had been a character performer at the park, raised her hand. "What if we tell the story of imagination itself? At Legoland, we didn't just show kids plastic bricks, we showed them possibilities." The idea sparked immediate discussion. Kevin O'Brien, another former park employee who had worked as a master builder, pulled out his sketchbook. "We could create set pieces that transform," he suggested, quickly drawing as he spoke. "Like how a pile of Lego bricks can become anything you dream up." Lisa watched as the energy in the room grew. This was exactly what she had hoped for, a fusion of theatrical experience and Legoland magic. The next 2 hours flew by as they mapped out the show's structure. They decided on a series of interconnected stories, each showcasing different aspects of creativity and resilience. The show would open with a child's bedroom, where toys would come to life through dance and puppetry. This would transition into various scenes representing the power of imagination and community. Peter worked on the technical aspects, consulting with Rick Howard about how to create transforming set pieces on their limited budget. "We need to make every dollar count," Peter reminded everyone. "This is about raising money, not spending it." Claire Duncan, the costume designer, had already started sketching bright, blocky costumes that would capture the LEGO aesthetic while being practical for quick changes. "We can use simple shapes and bold colors," she explained, showing her drawings. "Make it feel like you've stepped into a living Lego world." During lunch break, Lisa noticed Karen sitting alone, looking at photos on her phone. "Everything okay?" she asked, pulling up a chair. "Just looking at pictures from my last day at the park." Karen replied, "You know, I've been there since it opened. It wasn't just a job, it was like being part of a big family." Lisa nodded, understanding the deeper purpose of what they were creating. This wasn't just a show, it was a way to help people hold on to that sense of family. The afternoon brought more volunteers. Local dance studios offered to participate, and a group of high school students showed up wanting to help with set construction. The theater's lobby became a makeshift workshop where Kevin taught teenagers how to build large-scale Lego-inspired set pieces from cardboard and wood. Maria Ramirez, working on marketing, created a social media campaign that quickly gained traction. "People are already asking about tickets," she reported, showing Lisa her phone. "And local businesses want to know how they can help." The first real challenge came when they realized their usual sound system wouldn't be enough for the ambitious show they were planning. Just as worry began to creep in, one of the laid-off Legoland technicians stepped forward. "I know a guy," said Steve Miller, who had handled sound for the park's shows. "He owns a professional audio company. Let me make a call." By late afternoon, they had secured donated sound equipment, promises of volunteer ushers from 3 local schools, and a local printing company's offer to create programs and posters at cost. Lisa watched as former LEGOLAND employees worked alongside her regular theater volunteers, teaching each other their specialized skills. Michelle Garcia was showing the theater's dancers how to interact with children in the audience. Kevin O'Brien was helping the set designers understand how to make their constructions look authentically LEGO-like. "We need a name for the show," Peter reminded Lisa as they watched the activity. "Something that captures what we're doing here. Building hope, brick by brick," Karen called out from across the room, "because that's what we're doing, right? Building something new together." The name stuck immediately. Maria quickly sketched a logo combining theater masks with Lego bricks, and the room buzzed with approval. As the day wound down, Lisa gathered everyone for a final meeting. The rehearsal schedule was set, roles were assigned, and tasks were distributed. Looking at the tired but happy faces around her, she felt a surge of pride. "Remember," she said, "every great Lego creation starts with a single brick. Today, we laid our foundation. Tomorrow, we start building up." The group dispersed into the warm evening, carrying with them lists of tasks and assignments. Lisa stayed behind with Peter, reviewing notes and planning the next day's activities. "You know what's amazing?" Peter said, looking at the sketches and plans spread across the table. "Yesterday, these people were worried about losing their jobs. Today, they're creating something new." Lisa smiled, thinking about how quickly their theater family had grown. "That's the magic of community," she replied. "When we work together, we can build anything." As she locked up the theater that night, Lisa could hear the distant sounds of power tools from the workshop where volunteers were still working on set pieces. The parking lot was full of cars belonging to people who had shown up to help, many still wearing their LEGOLAND name tags. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, Lisa knew they had started something special. Like the toys that had inspired them, they were taking individual pieces and connecting them into something bigger than themselves. The show was becoming more than just a benefit. It was becoming a symbol of hope, creativity, and community spirit. The days began falling into a steady rhythm at Cypress Grove Community Theater. Each morning brought new volunteers, new challenges, and new solutions. As the third week of preparations began, Lisa Martinez arrived to find the theater's lobby transformed into a colorful workshop. Susan Wright from the downtown bakery had set up a coffee and pastry station for the volunteers. "Can't build on empty stomachs," she said, arranging fresh muffins on a tray shaped like a Lego brick. The retired contractor, John Patterson, had become a regular presence, teaching former LEGOLAND employees how to safely construct the large set pieces. His expertise proved invaluable as they worked to create movable walls that could transform during the show. "See, if we build it this way," John explained to Amy Nelson, a former LEGOLAND ride operator, "the pieces can slide together just like real Lego bricks." His simple teaching style made complex construction techniques easy to understand. Daniel Carter, who used to work as a park photographer, had taken on the role of documenting their progress. His photos showed the evolution of their project, empty spaces becoming workshops, strangers becoming friends, and ideas becoming reality. The morning's production meeting brought news of growing community support. Local businesses had donated materials, food, and services. The hotel down the street offered discounted rooms for out-of-town volunteers. Even the city's maintenance department pitched in, helping to upgrade the theater's electrical system for free. "We've got another situation," Peter Thompson announced during the meeting. "The ticket requests are overwhelming our online system. We might need a bigger venue." Lisa looked around the theater she had called home for so many years. The space that had always seemed so adequate now felt too small for what they were creating. "How many people are we talking about?" "At least twice our capacity," Maria Ramirez replied, checking her tablet. "And that's just from the first wave of publicity." The room fell quiet as everyone considered the implications. Moving the show would mean rethinking everything they planned, but staying would mean turning away people who wanted to help. Before anyone could speak, Linda Foster from the city council stepped into the room. She hadn't been invited to the meeting, but news of their predicament had reached her. "I might have a solution," Linda said, holding up a set of keys. "The Winter Haven Civic Center is empty next month. It's yours if you want it." The offer sparked a flurry of activity. The Civic Center could hold 3 times as many people, had better parking, and included modern technical equipment. Within hours, a small army of volunteers was measuring the new space and adapting their plans. Back at the theater, rehearsals continued. The show had evolved into something unique, a blend of traditional theater, interactive experiences, and Lego-inspired creativity. Former park performers brought their character work skills, teaching others how to engage with audiences of all ages. Karen Phillips led a group practicing a scene where Lego bricks would appear to build themselves into various shapes. Using clever lighting and carefully choreographed movements, they created illusions that made the impossible seem real. "This is even better than what we did at the park," Karen said during a break. "There, we had all the technology. Here, we have to be more creative, and somehow that makes it more magical." The costume department had taken over the theater's basement. Claire Duncan worked with a team of volunteers, transforming simple materials into outfits that captured the Lego spirit. They used bright colors and geometric shapes, creating costumes that would work in both the intimate theater settings and the larger civic center. "We're not just making costumes," Claire explained to her helpers. "We're building wearable art that tells a story." In the technical booth, Steve Miller trained new volunteers on the sound and lighting equipment. His years of experience at LEGOLAND helped him create effects that would enhance the show's magic without overwhelming it. "It's all about balance," he told his students. "Like building with Lego bricks, every piece has to work with all the others." The afternoon brought unexpected visitors, former Legoland guests who had heard about the benefit show. They shared stories about their favorite memories at the park, and many offered to help in whatever way they could. One family's story particularly touched Lisa. Their son, now a teenager, had visited Legoland every year since it opened. He donated his entire Lego collection to be used as decoration for the show's lobby display. "The park gave me so many happy memories," the boy explained. "I want to help give something back." As evening approached, Lisa gathered everyone for an important announcement. The move to the Civic Center was confirmed, and they would need to adjust their plans accordingly. Instead of causing concern, the news was met with enthusiasm. "More space means more people can come," Emmy Nelson pointed out. "More people means more help for our friends who lost their jobs." The teams broke into groups, each tackling different aspects of the transition. The set designers started scaling up their plans, while the technical crew mapped out equipment needs for the larger venue. John Patterson stayed late, working with his team to ensure all their set pieces could be safely transported and reassembled. His careful planning would prove essential in the days to come. Lisa watched from the theater's back row as rehearsals continued on stage. The show had grown beyond her original vision, becoming something that belonged to the entire community. Every person involved had added their own special touch, their own brick to the foundation. As the day ended, Sue Wright brought out one last tray of cookies, this batch decorated to look like tiny Lego figures. The simple gesture captured the spirit of what they were creating. Something sweet, something familiar, something made with care and shared with love. Tomorrow would bring new challenges with the venue change, but tonight, Lisa knew they were building something more permanent than any theater set. They were building connections, strengthening their community one brick at a time. The lights dimmed in the theater, but the work would continue. In homes across Winter Haven, volunteers practiced their parts, sewed costumes, and planned for the days ahead. The show was no longer just a benefit. It had become a testament to the power of community, creativity, and hope. The move to the Winter Haven Civic Center was scheduled for a Monday morning. Lisa Martinez arrived early, coffee in hand, ready to oversee the transition. What she found instead was a pool of water spreading across the theater's main floor. "A pipe burst in the wall," Peter Thompson explained, pointing to where water trickled down the aging plaster. "The moving trucks are coming in an hour." The news could have been devastating, but 3 weeks of working together had taught this team how to handle surprises. Within minutes, phone calls were made, plans adjusted, and solutions found. Mary Rodriguez, the city council member who had offered them the Civic Center, arranged for the moving trucks to come directly there instead. John Patterson and his construction crew quickly built wooden platforms to keep the set pieces off the wet floor. "Sometimes you have to rebuild," John said as he worked. "That's what this whole show is about, right?" The local news station sent reporter Jack Bennett to cover the pipe burst, but he found a different story instead. He watched as volunteers formed a human chain, carefully passing costumes and props from person to person, keeping everything dry. "This isn't a story about a broken pipe," Jack said into his camera. "This is a story about a community that won't let anything stop them from helping their neighbors." The Civic Center turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Its modern facilities and larger space allowed them to expand their vision. The higher ceilings meant they could create taller set pieces. The professional lighting system gave them more options for special effects. Steve Miller stood in the technical booth, grinning like a child with a new toy. "We can do things here we never could have done in the old theater," he said, programming light sequences that made Lego bricks appear to float in mid-air. The expanded stage allowed for more performers, and soon they had added new elements to the show. Local dance studios contributed performances. A children's choir joined to sing songs about imagination and friendship. Even the high school robotics team got involved, building moving platforms that could transform scenes in seconds. Karen Phillips worked with the new performers, teaching them how to interact with the audience in the larger space. "Project your energy to the back row," she demonstrated, her voice carrying clearly through the Civic Center. "Make every person feel like they're part of the magic." The costume department set up in what had been a conference room. Claire Dumpkin and her team adapted their designs for the bigger stage, adding reflective elements that would shine under the professional lights. "Every challenge is an opportunity," Claire said as she adjusted a costume. "Just like Lego bricks, you can always rebuild them into something new." Emmy Nelson, who had been quiet and withdrawn after losing her job at LEGOLAND, found her confidence growing as she took charge of coordinating the volunteers. She created schedules, organized break times, and made sure everyone had what they needed. "At the park, I learned how to help people have fun," she explained. "Those skills still matter, just in a different way now." The local media attention brought by Jack Bennett's report drew more support. Restaurants began delivering meals for the volunteers. A printing company offered to make twice as many programs as originally planned. A local tech company donated tablets to help manage the expanded lighting and sound systems. Daniel Carter kept documenting everything, his camera capturing both the big moments and small kindnesses. His photos showed volunteers sharing lunch breaks, teaching each other new skills, and working together to solve problems. One afternoon, Lisa found him looking through his pictures with tears in his eyes. "I thought losing my job at Legoland was the end of something," he said. "But look at all this, it was just the beginning." The show itself had grown more ambitious with the move. The larger stage meant they could create a full-sized Lego city that would transform throughout the performance. The better acoustics allowed for more complex musical numbers. The professional lighting system made their special effects truly spectacular. But despite all the technical improvements, the heart of the show remained the same. It was still about community, about people coming together to help each other, about turning setbacks into comebacks. 1 week before opening night, they held their first full rehearsal in the Civic Center. The former Legoland employees moved through their roles with professional precision. The community volunteers brought fresh energy to every scene. The technical elements worked smoothly, creating illusions that made the audience gasp. Lisa sat in the back row, watching it all come together. Beside her, Peter Thompson took notes on last-minute adjustments needed. But these were small things now, timing tweaks and minor costume fixes. "We did it," Peter said, looking up from his notebook. "We actually did it." "No," Lisa corrected him, gesturing to the hundreds of people who had made this possible. "They did it. We just gave them a stage." The rehearsal ended with everyone gathering on stage. Some were still in costume, others wore work clothes covered in paint or sawdust. They'd all looked tired but happy. "Remember why we're here," Lisa told them. "Every ticket sold, every smile in the audience, every moment of this show helps our friends and neighbors. That's what makes this more than just theater. It's hope in action." As they left that night, the Civic Center's lights illuminated their way through the parking lot. The building that had been a last-minute solution now felt like home. Sometimes, Lisa realized, the biggest challenges lead to the best opportunities. Tomorrow would bring final rehearsals, last-minute adjustments, and probably a few more surprises. But tonight, they had proved that nothing could stop them. Like the toys that had inspired them, they had taken what life had given them and built something wonderful. Opening night arrived with a buzz of excitement at the Winter Haven Civic Center. Lisa Martinez stood in the lobby, watching as former Legoland master builder Paul Henderson put the finishing touches on his interactive display. The massive Lego creation told the story of their community through carefully arranged bricks and figures. Each piece represents someone who helped, Paul explained to the gathering crowd. Just like in real life, every brick matters. Inside the theater, the seats filled quickly. Local families sat next to city officials. Former Legoland visitors mingled with theater regulars. Children pointed excitedly at the colorful set pieces visible through the curtain. Backstage, Peter Thompson moved between dressing rooms, checking on the performers. Karen Phillips led the group in warm-up exercises, her voice steady despite the emotions of the evening. Amy Nelson distributed last-minute schedule changes and made sure everyone had what they needed. 5 minutes to places. Steve Miller called from the tech booth, his voice calm and professional over the intercom system. Lisa gathered everyone in the green room for a final word. Faces looked back at her, some nervous, some excited, all ready. These people had become more than just a cast and crew. They were a family. Whatever happens tonight, she told them, we've already succeeded. We came together when our community needed us. Everything else is just icing on the cake. The house lights dimmed, and the show began. The opening scene transformed the stage into a child's bedroom, where Lego bricks began to glow and move. Dancers in LED-enhanced costumes created patterns of light that made the audience gasp. Claire Duncan watched from the wings as her costumes caught the light perfectly. Each movement sent sparkles across the Civic Center's walls, creating the illusion that the whole building was made of magical Lego pieces. The story unfolded through connected scenes, each showing how imagination could turn ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. Former Legoland performers brought their characters to life with practiced skill. Community volunteers added fresh energy to every moment. In one powerful scene, a group of laid-off workers rebuilt their broken dreams into something new. The metaphor wasn't subtle, but it didn't need to be. In the audience, people wiped away tears as they recognized their own stories on stage. Daniel Carter moved silently through the theater, capturing photographs that would preserve these moments. His camera caught the wonder on children's faces, the proud smiles of performers, the way the community had come together in this space. During intermission, Susan Wright's team served refreshments in Lego-shaped containers. The lobby buzzed with conversation as audience members shared their reactions to the first act. Jack Bennett interviewed people for his news report, collecting sound bites that all carried the same message. This was something special. The second act opened with a surprise. John Patterson and his construction crew had built a set piece that seemed to assemble itself, rising from the stage like a time-lapse video of Lego construction. The audience broke into spontaneous applause. Mary Rodriguez, watching from her seat, smiled as she saw how perfectly the Civic Center served the show's needs. The decision to move here had turned a crisis into an opportunity. As the performance continued, each scene built upon the last. Music, dance, storytelling, and visual effects combined to create something larger than any single element. The message was clear: together, we can build anything. The finale brought everyone on stage in a celebration of community spirit. LED lights transformed the set into a glowing city. Performers and audience members joined in a song about hope and new beginnings. Even the tech crew, led by Steve Miller, added their voices from the booth. When the final curtain fell, the applause lasted for minutes. Lisa stood in the wings, tears streaming down her face as she watched her vision become reality. Peter Thompson appeared beside her, clipboard still in hand. "You did it," he said softly. "We did it," she corrected him, gesturing to everyone around them. The cast and crew gathered for an impromptu celebration after the audience left. Someone had brought cupcakes decorated like Lego bricks. Emma Nelson distributed preliminary ticket sales numbers. They had already exceeded their fundraising goals. "But it's more than just the money," Karen Phillips said, still in her performance costume. "We showed everyone what community really means." In the days that followed, the show's impact spread beyond Winter Haven. Other theaters called asking about doing similar benefits. Local businesses that had helped saw increased customer support. Former Legoland employees found new opportunities through connections made during the production. Paul Henderson's lobby display became a permanent installation at the Civic Center, a reminder of what people could achieve together. Each brick told part of their story, the The challenges, the triumphs, the moments of discovery and growth. Lisa Martinez sat in her office late that night, reading messages from grateful performers and audience members. The show would run for 2 more weeks, but its effects would last much longer. On her desk sat a single Lego brick, a gift from one of the laid-off workers. Attached was a note that read, "Thank you for helping us rebuild." She picked up the brick, feeling its familiar shape. Like the toy it represented, the show had been built piece by piece, person by person, dream by dream. They had taken something broken and turned it into something beautiful. Outside her window, the Civic Center's lights still glowed, a beacon in the night. Tomorrow would bring another performance, another chance to share their message. But tonight, Lisa knew they had already built something permanent, a reminder that no one has to face challenges alone. The story of their benefit show would be told for years to come, not just as a tale of fundraising success, but as proof that imagination, compassion, and community spirit could build bridges across any gap, heal any wound, and turn any ending into a new beginning. Just like the toys that had inspired them, they had shown that the only limit to what people could build together was their imagination. And in Winter Haven, that imagination was proving to be endless.